Your Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Their Excellency, the heads of state, and members of the other delegations. I thank the government of Kenya and the government of Canada and the government of Japan for organizing this conference. I normally don't pay much attention to international groups. They really waste a lot of our time talking about things which are not well thought out. So when I heard of the blue economy, I didn't attend to it. That's another new cliche which they have started. So initially I didn't bother to follow. But when I studied more, I said, but these people are talking, why do they call it blue economy? Why don't they call it life? Because what we are talking about here is about life. Because there is no life without water. You know that. So we should find a way of highlighting that linkage between survival of the species and what we are talking about here. I think some of you are Christians, and you must have heard of the Tower of Babel. In the book of Genesis, chapter 11, verses 1 to 9, there's a story of people who are so arrogant, they built a big tower. They wanted to get near God and hear what he was saying. They built the tower, it got up, but then along the way it disintegrated. And they say that's why we are speaking different languages. So there are people who don't respect nature. The blue economy, meaning the water of the ocean and of the lakes and of the rivers, is a matter of survival for us. It means rain. Where does rain come from? From the oceans and other water bodies. It means fish. I don't eat fish myself, but I know that fish is a very big food for many of you people. Transport between countries and within countries. You saw the films here. Energy from the wind of the ocean. Tidal, that we can get electricity even from the tides. I hear some of the seaweeds can even be eaten as food. That is for the ocean. For the fresh water, then the values are the rain. In the case of Uganda and other parts of East Africa, 60% of the rain comes from the ocean. 40% comes from the local wetlands and the rivers. And if you want to know this, you can look at Uganda. The northwestern part of Uganda gets about 60 inches of rain in a year. Karamoja, which is near Turkana, gets half of that. Why? Yet they are on the same latitude. The difference is caused by the wetlands in South Sudan and the forest in Congo. That's why northwestern Uganda gets 2 times the amount of rain compared to the northeast. So therefore, when we are talking about the blue resource, meaning the water of the ocean, of the oceans and the water of the inland water systems, we are really talking about survival. So the lakes, the rain, hydropower, I don't agree with the expert who was the campaigning hydropower here. This is the confusion we don't want. The English say a bird in hand is better than 2 in the bush. Now this expert is saying, forget about hydropower. Go for what? No, let's first consolidate what we have, and we shall add on the other things when they come. So please stop the campaigning hydropower, because it's going to cause more confusion in the funding and so on. So the hydropower, water for drinking, water for production, transport within on these lakes, moderating the climate. I live on Lake Victoria. Also, you Kenyans, you live on the Lake Victoria this side. Kisumu, Homa Bay, our Tanzanian brothers, and you remain with all the heat. So, these water bodies are cooling agents. They moderate the climate. Fishing. You have heard of fishing also on the lakes. So all these are the values, and they have been mentioned. So I shouldn't really waste the conference's time repeating them. So what are the threats? We here on the mainland, our main problem is soil erosion. What causes soil erosion? Interfering with the vegetation. Because God had arranged everything by planting forests and grass, so that when it rains, the runoff water, you call it runoff. English is poor, they don't have enough words. Runoff. I don't know what they call it in Swahili, but we in our language there we call it omtunga. The water which is running on the ground. Omtunga. We shall get a word in Swahili. So this runoff, when you remove the vegetation, that vegetation would act as a filter so that the water, the runoff, as they call it in English, enters the river or the lake where it is soil-free, without soil, without silt. But now, if you look at the Kagera River, the one between Tanzania and Uganda, it is all brown. Why? Because people have cultivated on the highlands, or the soil is being swept into the river and into the water. Pollution by industrial effluent, plastics. Now, the consequence of all this, interfering with the wetlands, removing the wetlands. Those wetlands, again, are sieves for the water. And there are also factories for the rain. Interfering with the forests, cultivating on high gradient hills. A hill is very steep like this, people are cultivating on the hill. When it rains, all the soil is swept into the rivers. Cultivating up to the lakeside shore, cultivating up to the riverbanks, overfishing, etc., etc. So what is Uganda's plan in this matter? First of all, we have started a war against bad fishing. We are still using crude methods. Unashika mwizi wa samaki, you just get hold of him. But we want to get smarter by installing surface radars on the lake shore, where you can sit in one place and you watch what is happening on the lake. We also want to ensure that all the boats which are operating on the lake get electronic registration, so that we know which boat is where and why. We must also control the flooding of human beings in these lakes. Because fishing must have a limit. Can we have 1 million people all fishing? What is the optimal number of the fishermen per square kilometer? We should agree on that for sustainable fishing, you cannot have so many fishing nets in a square kilometer. There must be a limit. The other people can come on the lake, near the lake side, not to do fishing, but to make mandazi, kukata nywele. Okay, that's your job now. But for the fishing, only this number, which is optimal. Ensure that 200 meters from the lake shore, all the vegetation is protected. We want this vegetation near the lake to be the sieve, to sieve the runoff, as the English call it, to go into the lake, but when it is free of soil and free of other pollutants. The rivers, we must have 50 meters of vegetation, so that when what we call omtunga in our language goes into the river, it is free of silt. It has already been filtered by the vegetation. We are trying to bribe our people who invaded the wetlands to get out. Give them money, please, get out of the wetlands. It's a type of bribe, but it's better than crudely removing them, because that will also cause other problems, because you know we need votes. There's also the side of votes. If there was no issue of votes, then people would not allow people to settle and cultivate on a hill whose gradient is 30 degrees and more. That's why we have had landslides and they have killed people. You find people are settled on like this wall there. 70 degrees gradient, somebody is trying to settle there. Of course, these people have not heard about gravity, that when you are like that gravity will pull you down. Therefore, we have that plan of environmental protection. It is our plan. I think you can call it a pledge, an undertaking. But generally speaking, and finally, there are two problems for the environment in the world. Problem number one is greed. Greed, tamaa. In Europe and the Western world, and some other parts of the world, the environment is being damaged because of greed. People want shortcuts. They want quick money. They want easy money. Otherwise, technologically and financially, it is possible to protect the environment in the industrialized part of the world. You don't have to use dirty fuel, you can use clean fuel. If you look at the United States and Western Europe in general, what percentage of the population is in agriculture? Only 2%. Only 2% of the population in the US is in agriculture. The rest of the population is in industry or services or public service. What is the percentage in Uganda? 60%, 70%. How about poor in agriculture? Now, in the US, where you don't have too many people in agriculture anymore, because they have shifted to industry, it is easy to protect the forests, because the people are no longer invading them, looking for land for agriculture. Cutting forests. In Uganda, people are cutting forests for firewood, for fuel. In North America, people are cutting forests for greed, because they are trying to make money from trees which don't really are crucial which are not crucial for their survival. So I think in the case of Europe and other parts of the world, the danger to the environment is greed. We need priests, we need His Holiness the Pope to condemn greed. That's the main problem there. Money, 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 money. Here in Africa, it is a combination of greed, yes, but it is also necessity that we are fighting with. You have got 70% of the people in agriculture. In a small country like Rwanda, like Burundi, even Uganda is not a very big country. How will you keep them from invading the forests and invading the water bodies? Now there's also this other problem of democracy. When you need votes of the forest encroachers, and you need votes of the encroachers on the wetlands, So that's one problem. Industrialization is very crucial for Africa so that people get out of agriculture and go to industry and services and ICT. Then we remain with smaller numbers in agriculture to deal with in order to protect the water bodies, the hillsides, and the forests. On the side of fuel, we need electrification. So those conservationists who in one breath talk about conservation, then they also don't emphasize electricity. They are not serious. There is no way you are going to protect the forests if you do not provide alternative cheap energy, which is electricity or gas for the population. So with these few words, I thank His Excellency Uhuru for inviting me, and I wish you good luck. Thank you very much.